up, everyone? Welcome back to the Crazy Crab Chess channel. It's time for part 8 of the ALBIN-COUNTER GAMBIT COMPLETE series. And in this one, we're going to talk about the SPASSKY variation. This is a very rare variation in the ALBIN-COUNTER, but you'll want to be ready for it as an ALBIN-COUNTER GAMBIT player and expert. We got to be prepared for it. And the way this works is opening moves are the same. And after c4, we play the ALBIN-COUNTER and starts the same. Just takes, we push forward, and from here, you're going to see either knight f3, more likely knight f3, occasionally the direct e3, which we're happy about. We're throwing our check. We try to get our Lasker trap from the first video in this series. But there's another move that could happen that we got to be ready for, and it's called the SPASSKY variation from, of course, Boris Spassky, the immediate e4. I saw this playing live here on this channel at one point, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, what in the heck do I do? This was like 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, I've prepared myself. I have preparation now to get into some really exciting lines against this immediate e4. So what to do? Well, we can't throw the check in like before. I mean, you can, but it's not going to work because once the bishop blocks, now we can't take anymore. Otherwise, it'd be the same as if he had played e3, but we can't take that except unless we take it now, which is not great because it allows the queen trade. So what to do? You could just play knight c6, but there's another move that I play that I'm about to show you. But we do want to know what's the whole idea behind this e4 move by Spassky. Well, if your opponent is prepared and they're actually following Spassky's advice, the whole idea is to play bishop d3, eventually f4, you get your knight out, and then castle over here, so you get a pretty strong position. Of course, a lot of players don't know all this, and they're just playing e4 because it looked interesting, and they didn't know what to do against the ALBIN-COUNTER. I'm playing this move, f6, because it really does create some sparks. Now, they're going to probably take it and accept it, and we're going to play knight takes f6. Now, in the off chance they don't, just inviting us to take here and get a really nice pawn center. Like, for example, if the knight comes out, can't take yet, but we can play knight c6. They play something like a3 to try to expand over here. We'll just take back, and now we have a nice pawn center. That's pretty rare. It feels like white just takes right here. And then black takes back with the knight. Knight takes on f6. So knight takes f6. And if white knows what they're doing, they're going to play bishop d3. And it is the most common move, bishop d3. We see the knights attacking the pawn. So bishop d3 is natural. If they try something else, like pushing here, e5, this is crazy here. We're just going to back up to knight to d7, and white kind of will instinctually just defend it. And there's a move here you could try. Pretty exciting, and you're probably going to get a winning line, but I have to say, if white plays correctly, this is actually bad for black, but it's a crazy sacrifice. The correct move, the best move by the computer is simply knight c6 if you reach this position. But a move that hasn't been played because it looks crazy, knight takes e5. And I like this because if white takes, white is completely lost. Or maybe not completely lost, but in big trouble after queen h4 because the king has to come out. This move is no good. We're coming over here. And we can see it's all bad for white. So the king has to come out. We could just keep throwing our checks in. Check right here. Yeah, he's going to move somewhere, and now the bishop is attacking the queen, but we don't even have to move yet. We just keep throwing checks in. This is already just insane right here, and black has a great attack. Bishop blocking here leaves the defense of g2, and we just keep on attacking. And like, who wants to be white here? So just something to note here in this position. You have this option to take here. And even if white doesn't, the only move that really helps white here is queen e2, because something else allows us to play this move. And now queen e2, we're defending this knight with, so you can't take with the pawn, can't take with the queen. We can just develop this bishop right here, bishop c5, because again, taking here, we just simply castle. I think we just castle, and black is much better here. Our development is very strong. If knight comes out like this, we're just going to continue our development, and black has a much better position. So the only good move in response to this is the immediate queen to e2. For example, if we go knight here and then the pawn takes, you can see this is not as good. This check is not here. Plays like this, we can't slip over here. So it's a risky move, but just wanted to throw that out there as a possibility if you wanted to go for this. Okay, but back to the opening line. Let's just talk about this. The Spassky variation plays here. What do we play? We play here. Takes. Now they're going to play the correct move. Bishop d3. This is the main line. This is what it's all about. Bishop d3. The correct move here, simply knight c6. We are really looking for knight e5 in the future. There's a move we're going to see a lot. If white allows it, we're going to see this move a lot. From this position, the main moves, a3, knight e2, knight f3, and the immediate f4. We'll start with knight to e2. Keep in mind this check, if you can play it, consider playing it. Here, we can play it. Bishop b4 check. We have the block here. Bishop d2. We don't have to take. We can just simply castle. White castles. And now the special move in this position. Boom! Knight to g4. All kind of threats right here. We're looking at queen h4 is the possibility. So what's white going to play? We all know what white's going to play here. Everyone knows what white's going to play right here. What happens whenever you bring your piece up into white's territory and they have a little pawn, they can kick that. They're going to kick it. But we're fine with that in this position because we want to go to e5 anyway. And so knight g down to e5, we're threatening right here a move that white may not even know is there. But because he played this move, we have this possibility of bishop takes h3 takes, and there could be a knight check. The rook could come up here. The queen could get into the game. All kind of stuff could happen. But right here, black has enough development that this is a threat if white's not careful. Not to mention the knight's attacking the bishop right here. This bishop is undefended. So how to defend this bishop? What to do? Well, maybe they think, I'll just move the bishop. Bishop back to c2. Moves the bishop out of the way. Oops. d3. So that didn't work out too well. What other options? They could move this bishop in order to reveal the queen as a defender. So the couple of options, they could go back, underdevelop, but again, this is going to allow the attack. Bishop takes h3. And after takes here, you have a few ways to proceed. It turns out the best idea, this check is okay, but actually simply rook f3. It looks crazy, but it's attacking this bishop. You can see we have two pieces attacking the bishop. The queen is ready to jump in the game if needed, attacking this pawn, and it's just a huge attack with multiple variations that lead to a complete victory for black. If they try to defend with knight f4, kind of defends it because this spot is protected by the bishop, and so the knight feels like maybe it's kind of protecting the bishop here, but it's really a little bit scary here for white, to say the least. And in this particular case, we have queen g5 check, and now we have an extra attacker here on this knight, so the rook could take. Knight may now jump back to defend because we have a discovered attack on the queen. So queen has to move, but simply back up, simply queen g6. And is this survivable for white? Well, no, not according to the computer. We could see a massive attack right here. This pawn hangs. This will allow the knight. I mean, there's just all kinds of possibilities. We have to be careful not to hang a piece. But other than that, this is just completely winning. This bishop is still under attack. Too many ways to win here, but black with a completely dominant position. So knight f4, not really working. Again, this bishop is attacked, so maybe bishop just backs up to c2, gets out of harm's way. But then now queen h4, we're jumping into the game. We're going for the kill. If now knight f4, trying to, I don't know, defend best they can. I mean, there's not much to do, but we can actually just take this, just rook takes, and just do a little exchange here. Bishop takes, queen takes, and black still completely better. The king is exposed. We have too many pieces. This rook can still come into the game somehow. And I mean, there's just too much here for white. This is completely winning. So those ideas, it's all bad. Backing up here to the point, After this h3 move, we're going to see this knight from g to e5. This was the 10th move. The other idea is to move the bishop instead of back here, move the bishop here. Bishop f4 attacks the knight and still reveals this queen who is now able to defend the bishop here. But bishop takes h3 anyway. And almost they have to take. They're going to give you the free pawn, and you know, I don't think so. They're going to take right here. And now, okay, it's a little bit different. The rook can't come up here because clearly the bishop's here now. Queen h4. We're just going to jump in this way, and all kind of threats here. What's white to do? I've seen a move like king, trying to just get out of the way. King g2, kind of come a little closer to defend this square where the knight's about to jump into. But here, rook just takes here. We're fine with that. But possibly the best move is bishop to g3. But now we can grab the pawn here on h3. Popular move here, f4, but you're just creating more weaknesses on the king side. But f4, knight g4, we're jumping just closer. It's only allowing us to jump closer. Here, trying to defend everything they can. Seeing rook here, which sacks the rook, but you don't even have to take. If they do play rook f2, could actually play knight e5. And this is just insane right here. Because if they try to take it, rook takes, bishop takes, we got mate. So, you know, there's just really cool moves here. But the move I've seen, I've never seen this move, them willingly giving up the rook. Usually it's rook f3. But here, knight e5 anyway, same thing. And then maybe seeing the issues, maybe try to bring the queen over, try to trade the queen off, maybe relieve the pressure a little bit. But here we can actually take this rook because it's check, so they can't take the queen just yet. Knight takes f3 check. Queen has to take back. So now they definitely can't take the queen. It's no longer attacking. And here we can actually go back to knight e5. Why? Can't take. So all kind of squares we can go to. Queen maybe goes to h1, trying just to trade off again here. Well, I guess at this point we can do it. King takes, and then knight takes the bishop, and you can see black just completely winning. Their king is completely exposed. So that's some crazy lines right there against the Spassky variation. Really fun stuff. You get some major attacking lines. Let's recap it here. This is the Spassky variation right here. We play f6, takes, we take with the knight. This is move number 5. And right here, the correct move for white is going to be bishop d3. And we respond simply knight to c6. We looked at knight to e2. Another possibility is a3. This prevents the bishop check. So it's pretty obvious we can't play that. So instead, just bishop to d6. Instead of the bishop out to b4, we'll just play bishop d6 right here. And then maybe knight plays knight to f3, which invites a pin. We'll play that pin. So castle. And a move that we want, if they castle right here, I mentioned it earlier, it happens a lot. Knight here, knight to e5, a very common move in the Spassky variation because the knight can't take here because of the pin. And they have to be careful. I've seen this move, knight to here just to add some extra support here to f3. So knight bd2, but it hangs the bishop. Hang a piece right there. So what will they do? Probably they'll just play h3, the very common move. But here we can actually just take. Actually, pawn will take because of the knight here. So pawn takes, open up the king side. We could play like queen d7 in this position, attacking this pawn right here. And if the king tries to come closer to defend, maybe just g5 and just let's go for a massive attack right here and try to just take out the king. And maybe we can castle, bring our rooks over, whatnot, and just go for broke. So backing up a few moves here. After knight f3, what if we play bishop g4 and they play in instead of castling? Remember I said if they castle, that gives us this chance right here to play knight e5. They may not castle, they may play this right away. h3, just try to get that bishop out of there right away. And we can take here, and after queen takes, what do we do? Yeah, knight e5. So we're going to get knight e5 in one way or the other. And this is just a really nice spot for the knight to be. And obviously the queen's going to move right here. We can reposition our knight on f7 back down to here. Castling is going to come into play. Let's say maybe just knight here to d2. Now our other knight can jump in, and if they want to be hyper aggressive, do they want to do that? I don't think so. Free pieces are available. Bishop actually has to get out the freaking way. And this is really cool with this passed pawn. Now we can just castle. Jump in with our queen, and you can see I just like how these black seems to always get the dominant position. We're always the aggressor here, it seems like, against this Spassky variation after f6. It leads to all kind of cool lines. But let's look at another possible move. Back on the move 7, we saw a3. We've seen knight here. Oftentimes f4 immediately is played. Again, always consider this check. If you have the check, we might play the check. Bishop d2, castle, kind of same thing. Now if the knight comes out to f3, this is Spassky's whole idea. This is the actual idea behind this line. He wants to castle. He's gotten f4 in. He's got his bishop here. He's got his knight here. This is all part of the original Spassky plan with the Spassky variation. But note, like I said, a lot of players won't know that. And I do see from this position very often, after we've castled, they just push here e5 because it looks aggressive. It's actually a massive mistake. We're jumping into another big move to look for is knight g4. If you can get knight g4 in, we need to get knight g4 in because we're threatening all kinds of stuff. We're threatening knight to e3, which is a beautiful square. Bishop can't even take because of the pin. And also queen h4 could be a possibility. For instance, if they try to kick the knight, we can get in queen f4, queen h4. Completely winning position. We're going to checkmate, and it's actually a mate in 2. Alternatively, if they play this move to prevent that, well, we're just going to play knight to e3 then. So bear that in mind. If we have the chance to play knight g4, that is going to be really nice. But the correct move here for white, Spassky's idea is simply knight to f3. And in this case, we can just go ahead and capture here. Takes. Knight b takes on d2. And we're going to play this anyway here. Now we're going to play knight here, trying to get over here, knight g4. If white castles right here, well, so what are they going to do here? Well, rook is threatening here on f4, so they may play this. And we still got this move anyway. And now the queen has to move. White's not castling. This is just really good for black. Queen, say, comes over here trying to be hyper aggressive. But now we have squares. I mean, there's holes all over white's position right here. And the computer says it's about even, but I think most players would much rather be black right here. You're going to be able to create opportunities. There's checks. There's just, this is really nice. Now, if queen goes crazy, and we see this all the time, like white has a chance to snag a pawn down here on b7. It happens often, right? Oftentimes it's a bad idea. Here, just queen d7 to defend the knight. I mean, we have too much development, and now these rooks are going to be able to attack the queen possibly and get in the game. So if he plays something like b3 so that way after this we can't grab that. Bishop g2 up here. They have too many problems to worry about. So rook moves over, and actually this rook doesn't even need to go. We can play with this rook because a7 is protected by the knight. So now queen a6. Our knight can jump in here to b5. We can hang that. We don't really care about that anymore. We're attacking this, and this is just crushing here. You can see how we can get some really exciting positions. So let's come back here. After f4, we throw in the check. Now what if instead of this move they play bishop d2? Well, again, we now have knight to g4, a move we're trying to play, and this move doesn't work. It's just allowing us to jump in where we want. So sometimes a3, this is actually the most common move right here, a3, but we can ignore it. We can play knight e3 anyway because it's attacking the queen. So queen's got to move. Say queen e2. Now we still don't have to move this guy. Keep on that queen. Bishop bishop g4. Now knight here, knight f3. We could just keep the pressure on. You can take, but for me in this position, simply save my bishop here, bishop back to d6, and if they try to be aggressive, it's almost always e5 is played right here. But I actually take the freaking bishop because This pin right here allows this knight to get in the game. So, yep, we've sacrificed a piece for 2 pawns, but we have huge pressure now on white. We're the aggressors. If h3 right here, super, super common, simply back up. And if they keep trying that, like this, with g4, now we can play knight takes d3, knight takes d3 check. Only one move queen has to take. And now when we move the bishop out of harm's way, oh, we're also attacking the queen. Pawn is defended here. Knight is defended. So maybe queen e2. Simply castle. Black is completely winning right here. Turns out queen e2 is a mistake. It's a terrible place to be. There's all kinds of moves right here. This queen wants to get into the game, and we're just going to run completely over white right here. The correct move right here, if white ever was to get into this position, the best move that they could play is not to move the queen, but actually to block with knight e4. Kind of hard to find that move, but you just castle. Black is still doing fine right here, and I'd rather be black any day of the week. So that's pretty much how to handle the Spassky variation. You get a lot of fun stuff out of this. Takes, push, there's the Spassky, and I like this move, f6. I've come to appreciate this move quite a bit. Takes, and then after the bishop here, just bring our other knight out. I don't know, did I talk about this move? The one move, the other, we've talked about this move, and this move. Also, sometimes, of course, the immediate knight f3 is played. And here, this is not so bad, bishop going for the pin, but I usually just throw the check in immediately. When it can, throw the check. When they don't have a3 played, it's just a way to remember it's okay just to throw the check in. Bishop blocks here. And now we just go ahead and it's a little too soon, not quite developed enough to play. Always keep that move in mind, but here, a simple castle is fine. And, you know, similar positions as earlier. Remember, they ever try this, we just bounce back here, knight d7. And if they take, we obviously are taking back, and that's not bad. Always looking at moves like this. If they castle right here, bishop g4 is fine. And if the famous h3, we just back up because we welcome them to try to, if you want to play g4 and just weaken your king side, we welcome that. More than likely, they won't do that here because they see that. So oftentimes just take back. And then the famous a3 over here. Always got to kick our pieces. You could take here, but just going back here is fine. That's the most, just a standard position where they play that knight f3. Not as many fireworks, but, you know, some exciting stuff can always happen in the Spassky variation. So that's just a quick look at it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Let me know your thoughts down below on the Spassky variation and the ALBIN-COUNTER GAMBIT. Only 2 more videos to go. We'll play some actual live games in the next couple of videos as well. So maybe next one will be against the computer. And then in the 10th and final video, we'll play some actual live games using this variation, the ALBIN-COUNTER GAMBIT. So I can't wait for that. Hope you guys have been enjoying this series. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.